Hey guys, Lucky Star Shi-Roku here, and today I wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive into my new intro and outro sequence. If you look at my channel, you'll notice I have recently uploaded a quick little debut of my new intro and outro sequence. It's just basically my intro and outro, like basically combined into one video just for the sake of showing it off. But I did want to do a bit more of a deep dive into it, you know, talking about the differences, the kind of thought process that went into it, all that kind of stuff, just because there was a bit of a process into it. And like I did, like in the actual description of that video, I did kind of describe it as, how would I describe it again? I think I described it as something along the lines of a fit of stress or frustration or something, because that was the case. Because okay, bit of context. When I initially made that new intro and outro sequence, it was during a period when I couldn't record for a few days because my area in the UK was currently under a thunderstorm warning, which meant I couldn't really record anything for a few days. Because while it may have seemed alright, you know, it's generally not a good idea to like record anything with audio when you're expecting like a thunderstorm or high winds or heavy rain or whatever, you know, just because my mic is pretty damn sensitive and I don't know how to get rid of background noise like that. So typically when there's something like that, I generally try to avoid recording in general, just, you know, completely avoid that risk altogether. And yeah, so basically I did make that intro and outro sequence out of just, so basically it's a case of, okay, right, so I can't record, so what else can I do to like vent my frustrations in a creative and productive way? And that's basically what happened. I basically poured all of my rage and frustration into making that intro and outro sequence, making improvements over the old ones, which again I'll talk more about in a bit. So I think what I'll do here is so basically I've got a few things set up here. So I've got a few slides on my phone with information about each intro and outro, like what each element has and all that kind of thing. So I've got a few slides here to help me out as little reminders here and there. And yeah, I'm just gonna briefly like show the intro and outro, and so, you know, show it. Then I'm gonna talk a little bit about it and breaking it down, you know, just showing the differences and all that kind of thing. So okay, so here we are with the intro. Here we are with the old intro, which I am going to talk about. Again, what I'm going to do here is I'm just briefly going to show it. Again, these are typically very, very short clips anyway, so I'll just show it very quickly, and then I'll talk about it and break it down a little bit. So this is the original intro, the one I've just gotten rid of. So this is the intro right now, which I'll demonstrate. Okay, that was basically it. So that was basically the intro that I just gotten rid of. So, so keep in mind that during these original versions of the intro and outro, keep in mind that I was a bit more, you know, a little less experienced to what I am now. You know, I've learned a lot more since then. I've done a bit more digging, a bit more research, learned a bit more of what's recommended, and, you know, keep in mind, back then, I was just trying to find something that works, which I think it worked at the time, but I've just learned a bit more about stuff back then. So, okay, so this first intro is around about 6 seconds. Using the music I was using back then was Skydance by Feint, and then if we go to the visuals, so basically it's the vortex, then a picture of me in real life, then after that it fades out back to the vortex, and then it's basically my channel and like icon and name using the branding. And then after that, it just fades to the actual video. So again, keep in mind all of these elements that I used back then, it was just me throwing stuff together at the last minute, just hoping everything works pretty much. So yeah. So again, which I think, again, it worked for the time. So again, first it's obviously the music, Skydance by Feint, which again, I did, back in the day, I did contact Feint to ask permission, which he said it was cool. As long as I credit, which I do anyway, I do credit, usually when I use music, I usually do credit them in the description or in the, depending on the situation, I usually do credit them in the description or on screen or both, depending on the situation, or the credits at least, in the description at least. But yeah, so again, the Vortex, again, I was just, you know, working with what I had, which I think looked pretty good at the time. But looking back now, I think maybe, which again, I'll talk about once we get to the new intro and outro, which you'll see. But I think, looking back now, maybe the Vortex might have been a little bit much to focus on, a little bit distracting at times. And I think maybe, you know, having, you know, my real life image. The reason I did that initially is just so people know that it is me. You know, whether I appear as my real life, like live action self or my avatar, I want people to have that distinction that it is me in both forms. That's kind of why I did that. And then obviously there's the branding, obviously my channel icon and name. And then after that, it just fades to the actual video. And again, all of this stuff, I think it worked for the time. You know, it did the job for what I need. Again, originally the intro and outro sequence was a lot longer. It was a lot more thrown together initially. I've gradually gotten better and made improvements over time. Because again, it did used to be a bit longer. I think at one point it used to be like 20 seconds. Which I have obviously, I've decreased down significantly, because obviously these days viewers tend to have like lower attention spans, some of them, so I had to, like, you know, I shrunk it down to 10 seconds and then eventually 5 seconds just to compensate for that. But yeah, again, all of this is just, again, you don't really learn stuff like this in school or anything, so this is all stuff that I've learned on my own. And you know, it's just using the assets and stuff that I had, which again, I made this tunnel just in Minecraft. You know, I built me and my friends built a tunnel in Minecraft, and basically I just turned on a texture pack and just went down the tunnel, turned off my HUD and just recorded it, and then we just fixed things up in editing. A friend helped me out, just made me a loop of it, and you know, made it more visually pleasing and stuff like that. So yeah, again, it's just using assets that I had and thinking, okay, what can I do for an intro with the few little things I have lying around? You know, that's basically my mindset. Again, you'll see what I did with the newer intro and outro when we get to it. But yeah, that's basically it. Just again, 6 seconds using Skydance and Feint, like Skydance by Feint, the blue binary vortex. Fading to a real life live action pic of me, just so you know that it's me both in the avatar and you know, whatever form I appear in the video, that's me basically. Especially since I am starting to use the avatar in video more these days now as well. And then obviously fade back to the vortex with the channel icon and name and stuff, and then fade to the actual video. And that's basically what I did for the original intro sequence. Okay, and this is my old outro sequence. This is the old outro sequence, which once again, I'm just gonna show it and then break it down as what I did before. So this is the old outro sequence. Okay, so right now let's break it down, shall we? So my old outro sequence was a little bit longer, just because I felt like I felt like the main issue is, as long as your intro is a bit shorter, that's what's important. Which is, again, I did that just so that people can maybe enjoy the music a bit longer, and just appreciate all that. Plus it's my goodbye message, reminding people to subscribe and stuff like that. So because of that, I felt like maybe I can get away with it being a little bit longer, basically. So I did have it at 21 seconds, but as you'll see, I did decrease it again, but I did it in a way where I think it makes sense. Like, it's not being long for the sake of being long, it's actually got reason behind it, So once again, it's 21 seconds. Once again, I'm using like Skydance by Feint, using a later part of the soundtrack as well, like towards the end of the song, basically, which I think makes sense for the intro. Like in the intro, like use the beginning of the song, and then in the outro use to like a later part of the song, which I think makes sense. At least it makes sense to me. And then the visuals, it's visuals. Once again, it's using the blue binary vortex. Yes, using the blue binary vortex with my avatar. I don't even know if I have my mouse cursor on for this, so I don't know if this. Don't know if you're going to see this or not. But I've got my my avatar here. I hope I remember to turn my mouse cursor on. But I've got my my avatar here. Making it look like that I'm thanking everyone myself. So again, we've got the thank you message here. We've got the please leave a like if you enjoyed and want to see more, and make sure subscribe, turn notification, check the check all the community tabs, and the links are in the description, the little reminders, all that. So I've got all that, which again I put my avatar there just so it feels like I'm talking to. It feels like that I'm directly talking to the viewers, saying that so it's instead of like just a vortex, just having me there directly saying all this stuff, or presenting like it's me talking. So that's basically what I've done there. Obviously you'll see a lot of these assets in the intro and outro carrying over to the new versions, but with a few major differences for reasons, which again you'll see when I get there. But that's basically what I did for the outro. Now let's have a little look at the new intro and outro, so I can actually talk about the major changes. Okay, and here we are with the new intro sequence, which already you'll notice there's a bit of a difference. So again, I'll just let it play and then I'll break it down. Okay, right, so as you notice, a lot shorter as well. Okay, so right, so here, this is basically the new version of the intro, which I think looks a lot nicer. It's a nicer presentation, I think, a lot more welcoming. Not that the other version wasn't unwelcoming or anything like that. It's just I think it's a much more chiller vibe for what I'm going for now. So as you'll notice, I've completely gotten rid of the vortex effect. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But basic breakdown here is right. So the actual runtime of the intro is 5 seconds, and this time I've gotten rid of the music. Before it was Skydance by Feint, but I have actually changed the music from Skydance to Slowly by Tokyo Music Walker, which is a soundtrack that I use a lot in my videos anyway. I use it as a general background soundtrack in vlog videos while I'm talking. So I just, it's a very chill music. It's very appropriate to the kind of vibe I'm going for with my audience and stuff. So it just made sense pretty much. So just like with Skydance, I'm using the beginning part of the music for the actual intro sequence. Now, let's talk about visuals. So the visuals are a bit different. As you can see, I've completely got rid of the vortex because, again, I was doing whatever I could, just throwing assets together, seeing what works. But obviously, lately, I have been experimenting with AI art of my avatar and stuff, and I'm using that a lot more often in my channel now. So, I've basically gotten this image of my avatar, which I use for everything. I use this for the little icons in my thumbnails. You'll pretty much notice that this is basically my basic default image for my channel now. Like, if I was still using the regular channel art and not changing up each season, this is what you'd see at my channel icon as well, if I wasn't changing up each season. But so yeah, I basically got this generalized. So usually when you see this in other places, like in, for example, when you see this in my thumbnail icon, it's usually cropped to show just my face, but this is the full version. Please ignore the fact I've got too many fingers. The AI tool is not always perfect, so there are a few little hiccups here and there. So please ignore that. Apart from that, it is basically my presentation of my avatar anyway. So again, I've got the full non-cropped version of my OC. So if anyone was curious about what the full version of my OC looked like, now you basically got a good look at him. So basically, I've got the full non-crop of my avatar. Then after that, it'll do a little transition and a fade of my channel name will appear in front of me, but not obscuring my avatar at the same time. And that'll appear for a few seconds before fading, like so, and then it'll just transition to the actual video. So again, the reason I went with this is because again, the vortex, it did its job in the beginning, but later on I thought, hang on, is the vortex a bit too much? Is it a bit too much to focus on? And in the end, I decided okay, you know what? I'm using this image anyway, so it just makes sense. So just get rid of the vortex completely, just because there is a chance that it might be a bit too much to focus on, and maybe just a solid image might be better. I mean, I know there's plenty of channels that have like moving images for stuff like that anyway, like my vortex. But I figured, what if it's doing more harm than good? So just having that, again, it's generalizing my channel anyway, so it just made more sense, I think. Yeah, and that's basically it. So that's basically my new intro, which again, I'll play it again one last time. Which again, I think has it's got a nice vibe. It definitely feels welcoming. The very chilled position of my avatar, just like, it's very, very chill. So I just think it's a nice vibe. It makes, it has a very cozy and welcoming vibe, which is kind of what I'm going for anyway. Okay, right. So this is my new outro sequence, and I've actually added a little bit more onto it since the initial debut, just because of a few last minute decisions, like a few last minute ideas that I kind of had in my head. So again, it's not that different. It's just a couple more slides compared to before. But right, let me just show it real quick before I break it down. So this is the full new outro sequence. Sorry, I was just vibing there for a second. It's just a really chill music. I do love it. But okay, now let's break it down. So okay, so this outro sequence is a little bit longer. Like initially, it was only 5 seconds initially, But the thing is, with things I've added, so basically it's before it was like 21 seconds, but now it's only like 16 seconds. But the thing is, I decided like these little things, so it's longer, but it you know, the length, the extra length makes sense. It's not just long for the sake of being long. It's actually got a bit of a reason for it. So it's got multiple slides, which again I'll talk about in a second. But so once again, I've got the thank you for watching. I've got the usual stuff before, so there's like the thank you message, the please leave a like if you want, you know, all that usual stuff, the subscribe, or you know, the usual stuff here and there. And then there's that picture of my avatar again, which I've like kind of resized to have me in the side there, similar position to what I had my avatar in the previous version. Which the main reason I wanted to use that one, because one, it's the whole generalized image for my channel, and but also because there was a little bit. I'm not the best at rotoscoping, so if you look very closely at my the previous version, you'll notice there's a lot of missing pixels where I was not so good with rotoscoping. Where I was missing. So yeah. So you know, by using this, it just means that I don't have to worry about rotoscoping. It looks a lot better, and yeah. So basically, I've got this usual slide here. Once again, with the music, still using Slowly by Tokyo Music Walker, but once again using a later part of the song, which is again what I did with Skydance. You know, again makes sense. Using the beginning part of the song for the intro and using a later part of the song for the outro makes sense to me. And I used a particular part of the song which I particularly like. It's just, you know, I just like it. It's just, again, it's got a really nice sound to it. It's my favorite part in the whole track. Okay, now let's talk about visual effects. So there are a few slides in this, which each slide is a total of 5 seconds. So there are 3 slides here now. There's obviously this main slide, which is what the original was. So there's this normal slide here with just me welcoming everyone and stuff, reminding people to subscribe if they want, reminding that the in the description all the stuff is in there if they want to check it out. So that's on for like 5 seconds. And then it goes to the next slide here, which is this, and the next one are just a couple last minute decisions that I decided to put in. Basically, I decided to put something on screen. If anyone is curious about how I typically make my videos, here's a little idea of what I use. So I just put a couple little graphics here, like so made with. So this is just showing all the stuff I typically use to make my videos. So basically, the footage was recorded in OBS Studios. My commentary recorded in Audacity, videos edited in Adobe Premiere Pro CC 2017. Just, you know, all that stuff just in case anyone is curious about what I use or how I make my videos. The on-screen video elements are made in Paint.net. Thumbnails are made in Paint.net, and any AI art elements appear on the channel is used in Google Gemini. So that's basically it. So I thought, what could I do? Like I maybe want I want a little bit of an excuse to have the music last a bit longer, but how can I do that and not make it like feel I'm doing it for the sake of it? So that's what I've done. Just adding a couple slides here. So again, this is just more for people who are curious. Again, each one of these slides is a total of 5 seconds. So the last slide, that's 5 seconds. This is 5 seconds. And then the credits. So these are basically all the credits of the music I use typically in my videos. Like, so basically, here you can see obviously intro and outro, which is now Slowly by Tokyo Music Walker, and then the background musics. You know, these are typically all the musics I use in my videos. Now, not every single one of these is used in every single video, but this is just a typical idea of the music I typically use anyway. So, again, you know, Chill by, so I'm not going to by Sakura, like Chill by Sakura, HZ Slowly by Tokyo Music Walker, Quiet Night by Tokyo Music Walker, a Leopard Print Elevator by Kevin Macleod, and then Jazz Brunch by Kevin Macleod. And then again, just a reminder, all the links in the description as well. So that's typically it. Again, these are typically all the music I use throughout my videos. Not necessarily all of them, but it's just an idea of my general roster. So even the musics that aren't particularly used in that video, this is where you can see the entire roster. And obviously, as I add more music to my roster, I will add more here. And again, this is just like credits on what musics are being used typically. And then I will also have like the credits and the links to them in the description as well. So again, so that's basically my idea of how I could make all of this. How could I make the outro last a bit longer, but at the same time make it feel like there's a reason that it's that it's not just long and drawn out just for the sake of it. So that's what I've done. So again, each one of these slides is 5 seconds, but somehow the total comes to 16 seconds. I don't know, maybe one of them is 1 second longer than the others, but either way, it's not that big of a margin. Again, 16 seconds versus the original 21 seconds. I think that's that's improvement. I think that's definitely again, you get a bit longer to enjoy the music. At the same time, it feels like there's a proper purpose. And again, as time goes on, maybe if I add more music here, maybe I'll have the intro music for its own kind of thing, and then the credit music, the background music will have a bigger slide. I don't know. We'll see what happens as time goes on, but that's basically how things are for the moment. Again, we'll have to see what happens, but yeah, that's the basic breakdown of my intro and outro sequence. And that's going to about do it for my breakdown and deep dive of my new intro and outro sequence. Again, I did when I did actually, I thought when I debuted it, I thought, I'll debut this now just to let people know that there is a new intro and outro sequence. But at the same time, I did want to go a little deeper and talk a bit more about it, a bit about the reasons and stuff, just because, again, just because I prefer being transparent. I don't like just dropping something and then never mentioning it. I usually like being open and transparent with you guys, so that you know, basically letting you in on my whole process and stuff. Letting you feel like that you're a part of it, instead of just, because again, I think transparency between the creator and the fandom or community it's so important. And honestly, way too many creators are only focusing on, way too many creators are only in it for the money and stuff. So I think this is a much healthier way of doing it. So again, I just wanted to let you in on the process and let you guys know that you're just as much a part of the community as me. It's not just me. It's not just me doing all this. Again, we're all going on this journey together. So yeah, that's basically what I want to do. So, again, the main reason I made these new intro and outro in the first place is, one, it's been on my mind for a little while anyway, just because, 21 seconds for the old outro is a little bit lengthy for the sake of it, and I think, what could I do to improve that? And obviously that's, it's just tackling those little issues. So again, I did like the vortex, don't get me wrong, I did like the vortex effect, but at the same time, it might have been a bit distracting, while my channel is appearing on screen, people might be, people with ADD or ADHD in particular might have been more focused on the vortex. So I thought by removing an element, it's a bit more friendly towards them, is what I'm thinking about. Not that I have it myself, but I know people who do, and I know how difficult it can be to focus. So just get rid of those elements completely. And again, I think the change to slowly from Skydance, that was another big one, because I've been using Skydance since almost day one. Not completely day one, but I've been using it for as long as I can remember, so this was a big change. But again, a lot of these changes, like the background, like the visual and the music, these are just stuff that I started using very, very recently. But I thought, actually, you know what? This looks better. This sounds better. So basically, it's just so that way it feels less forced or shoehorned in and feels more natural, because it's stuff that I use regularly on a regular basis anyway. So it feels more a natural progression than something shoehorned in. But at the same time, I still wanted to briefly talk a little bit about it, just to make sure we're on the same page, basically. So, yeah. Anyway, that's all I want to say for now. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Now that this video is done, hopefully I can get back to those other videos that I mentioned earlier that I was going to do before. Like, basically, if it wasn't for that storm, I wouldn't be doing all this anyway. And my next plan after that storm would have been those videos I mentioned, like the hot dog video, my like the channel art breakdown, and talking about my chair and stuff like that. Those little videos I mentioned before getting back to the Let's Plays, that would have been like my next plan anyway. But because I did this, I felt like I needed to talk a little bit about it. But anyway, so that's gonna be about it for now. So again, next time I will hopefully get back to those relaxed videos and then eventually back to the Let's Plays. But again, that's where I'm going to leave this video for now. So as always, thank you guys for watching, thank you for tuning in, and I will see all of you guys in the next video. Until then, have a good day, you guys.